Hello, this is a demonstration of the new plugin for Bitfocus Companion for the PTZOptics SuperJoy controller joystick. What you see on the screen here is Companion over on this side, and the joystick itself over to the right with the joystick controller and also an HDMI monitor attached to it so that we can see what is actually going on the camera being currently controlled. It's one of the nice features of the joystick is that's available. So to get started, we're going to switch over to just see the monitor so we can see what's happening in Companion itself, and we're going to set up a new connection for the joystick. Here's all my connections, a bunch of cameras, a Behringer X32, Reaper, vMix, a bunch of smart plugs for turning lights on and off in our sanctuary, and now we're going to add the SuperJoy. So we just type super, say add. Note we're on a development version here. This is a version that's running on this computer. It's been, pull request has been sent to GitHub, should be available in, I don't know, a week or two. When we say add, we get the configuration screen, and the only thing we can do here is add in the IP address of the controller, which is 10.01.79 in my case. Hit save, takes it a second, and then it will turn green to be connected to the controller. Now we're set to go. Let's look at adding some buttons. So the module has a bunch of presets in it. So if we go to presets and choose SuperJoy, one of the buttons is either turning the HDMI output of the joystick on, off, or toggling it. We'll grab the toggle button. Custom buttons. The joystick has 5 custom buttons we'll talk about when we get to that button. Then cameras are organized by group and camera on the SuperJoy. There are 5 camera groups, each of which can contain 6 cameras, except for the very last one, which could contain 170 cameras, something like that. But typically, we just use one. We have 5 cameras here in the sanctuary of First Unitarian Congregational Society of Brooklyn, which is where I'm sitting. So I just use group 1 cameras 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Now for a camera, we're going to grab a button that selects Group 1, Camera 1. And for right now, we're going to grab Preset 1, Preset 2. And then we're also going to grab a slightly different button that selects the group, the camera, and the preset all on a single button. So we'll take a look at the actions and we'll see what the difference between these preset buttons are and the direct preset button. So let's jump over and look at the buttons themselves and what the actions and feedbacks that are available are. So this action selects the group and camera. We're selecting Group 1, Camera 1. And the feedback here is that Group 1, Camera ID 1, are selected. Note that the variables, or this little symbol next to all the inputs for text here, these all support Bitfocus Companion variables and expressions, things like that, for both the actions. So for instance, the camera group and camera ID could be variables, as well as just hard-coded values or expressions for that matter. So selecting a group in camera, selecting a preset on the current camera, and then this action out here is selecting the group, camera, and preset. So it's selecting all 3. So it's sort of an emergency, go directly to this camera, group, and preset. So I'll demonstrate that in a moment. For the custom button, it's just which button to press. There are 5 possible custom buttons. We'll look at it in a second. And as I said before, HDMI output control, you can toggle it, you can turn it off, or you can turn it on. We're going to leave it on toggle right now. Okay, so now that we have some buttons and some feedbacks, let's take a quick look. The one other thing that's in the module is variables. So we provide the camera ID, the group, the HDMI state, and the preset that are currently on the camera as variables. So you can know the state of the camera when you're writing things like feedbacks or any other kind of expression that you might want to use Companion variables for. So now that we've got a couple of buttons, let's grab a couple more just real quick. So I'm going to grab Group 1, Camera 2. Then I'm going to grab the first 2 presets on that. as well, just so when we've got something to do to change cameras. So now we've got this page, I'm going to jump over to the emulator, and I'm going to make it full screen. And we will switch back to my view where we have, now we have the emulator and the joystick both available to us. And right now, the joystick is kind of pointing at itself. That happens to be camera 6 on the joystick. So now I'm going to go select group 1 and camera 1. Note that when I do that, the button lights up green because we said we were on group 1, camera 1, and the joystick currently thinks we're on preset 2, so the preset 2 button lit up. This is just from previous configuration I was doing. If we want to change presets, we can just hit the preset button, go to preset 1, and away we go, back to preset 2. So a typical flow for me during a service is to select a camera, select a preset. Those are actually going into the preview in vMix with other companion actions, and then I'll have a button that does a fade from preview into the output. So I'll have one page that has all the buttons for a given camera, and I'll have 3 or 4 different pages depending on how many cameras we're using in a given service. Now I'm going to switch to camera 2, and you can see the controller switch to a different camera. See, it's coming from the right side of our chancel now. I'm going to go back to camera 1 just so you can see the difference in angle. This is the left side of our pulpit. This is the right side of our pulpit. And if I go to camera, I'm on camera 2 now, as you can tell from the highlighting feedbacks. Go to preset 1. That's going to zoom us in tight on our pulpit. Okay, so basically we're tracking the group and the preset on the joystick. Now this also works the other way around. So I'm going to flip to a mode now where I'm going to zoom in on the joystick here. Let's get close in on the joystick. And you can actually see the buttons. Hopefully they'll focus. There we go. So right now it thinks camera 6 is selected, which is the camera that's temporarily on a tripod over my shoulder to be able to take this shot. Normally it's mounted somewhere else in the church. But I don't have a button for camera 6 over here on the emulator, so nothing is highlighted, okay? But if I come and select camera 1, now that's lit up green. And if I switch back to and on our controller, it is also green, right? If I switch to camera 2 on Companion, the button for camera 2 just lit up here. So the buttons, the indications on the joystick are keeping in sync with the things that are happening, in this case on the emulator. If it was an actual Stream Deck, they would also stay in sync, of course. The opposite also happens. So if I select the camera 1 again over here, that button lights up and we got the response back in Companion. So it's bidirectional. As you change, you first hit the button, it tells the joystick to change. Joystick state is read back by Companion, and so both of them stay in sync. If you change it on the joystick itself, that state is read by Companion, and it adjusts the state. In general, if you just press buttons, they will stay in sync pretty much with what's going on in the joystick. We really like this in our workflow because often we have volunteers, somebody will select camera 2, and then they're immediately adjusting camera 2 if you reach over to the joystick, whereas if you didn't have that synchronization, you might be on the wrong camera. Let me do that again after I've zoomed out here. So if I zoom back out to the joystick, when I select camera 2 in Companion, I guess I'll go to camera 1 in Companion, I'm here. I can now just immediately reach to the joystick and I'm already on camera 1. I don't have to go select the camera on the joystick also. And then if I switch to camera 2 back in Companion, I'm automatically doing the proper camera, the camera that I just selected. We have a lot of people who are volunteers who make the mistake all the time without this automation with the G4 joystick we had, that they would press a button in Companion, that would cause the camera to change in vMix, but then they also had to push the right button on the joystick to stay in sync. This way, they stay in sync. So that's pretty much cameras and presets. And now we'll go to the other buttons. The HDMI toggle does exactly what it says. If we look at the screen and I hit HDMI toggle, it turns off. If I hit it again, it turns back on. This is one place where the API that's provided for people doing automation like myself is not the same as the physical interface. I consider this a bug, but I'll point it out just because somebody's going to run into it. If I turn off HDMI on the camera, which is this button here, and then I change cameras, go from camera 2 to camera 1, the HDMI stayed off, okay? I'm going to turn it back on. If I do the same thing from the interface, or from Companion, where I toggle it off, and then I change cameras, it comes back on. The active selecting cameras also turns HDMI on in the interface that I'm provided, and there's no way to change that right now. So don't be surprised when you change cameras that your HDMI output comes on. It's not a big deal. I think most people are going to leave the HDMI output on. It's really nice to have it sitting there just next to the joystick so you can see exactly what you're adjusting. But it's different than the physical interface, so I thought I'd point it out. The last thing is custom buttons. So I'm going to get out of this for 1 second, and we're going to look at the SuperJoy. This is the web interface for the SuperJoy itself. These are my cameras, 71, 73, 72, 74, 75 are the ones that I use most Sundays. And one of the things you can do is set up custom commands. So custom commands can do a bunch of stuff. You can send HTTP commands, UART commands, direct TCP, UDP, and this thing called a super preset. Super presets basically will just send multiple groups, cameras, and presets to a given location. So if you just want to say everybody go somewhere, let's say there's a part of your church where some action is about to happen, okay? In my case, we have an organ in the back of the church. So if I flip over to this input here, we'll see that all 3 cameras are on the organ, right? And are in different places, only one of which is pointing at the organ. And now if we go back to our emulator, okay, then what we can do is I'm going to just press the custom button, and then I'm going to swip back real fast, hit the custom button, I'm going to fade, and you can see that all the cameras are going back to where the organ is. So if you wanted, say, to have a custom button that pointed everything at your chancel, everything would go towards the chancel, for something happening there, and then if something's happening in a different part of the church or a different part of your film studio or whatever you're using Companion for, you can move multiple cameras with a super preset. But this basically just lets you hit whatever your custom buttons are. And again, if we look at the joystick itself, the custom buttons are these 5 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4 across the top of the joystick here. And the 5th button is the button that's on the top of the joystick itself. So those are just if you program those, you can trigger them from Companion. And so I believe we have covered all of the capabilities of the new interface for the PTZOptics SuperJoy in Bitfocus Companion. Thank you very much.